Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers in modern psychology, believed that the true journey of life only begins when we connect with who we truly are. This idea might seem contradictory, especially in a world where we are conditioned to believe that the peak of life is in our early years, during youth, when we have the energy and drive to explore. But Jung had a different perspective. For him, the first decades of our lives are actually a period of preparation. It is during this time that we start building our foundations, exploring the world around us and absorbing values and beliefs, often without questioning them. Yet as we reach middle age, we realize that something is missing. What once seemed sufficient to fulfill us no longer makes sense. This transformation is known as the journey of individuation. According to Jung, it is the process of integrating the various parts of ourselves, shedding the masks imposed by society, and connecting with our true essence. It is not just an awakening, but a rebirth. Evidence suggests that many people go through this transition without realizing it. Studies show that over 60% of individuals between the ages of 35 and 50 report feeling an inexplicable dissatisfaction, even if they have achieved financial stability or professional success. This phase is commonly referred to as the midlife crisis, but from Jung's perspective, it is an opportunity. The journey of individuation is not an easy path. It requires us to look inward, face our shadows, and confront aspects of ourselves that we often avoid. For Jung, this was essential. He believed that we can only live a full life when we accept all the parts that make us who we are, including those we try to hide. From an early age, we are taught to play roles that help us fit into the world. These roles, which Jung referred to as the persona, are the masks we wear to please others and gain acceptance. They serve a purpose, but when we over-identify with them, we end up distancing ourselves from who we truly are. Imagine, for instance, someone who spends their life chasing goals that don't reflect their true desires. They might choose a career solely to please their parents or make decisions driven by the fear of not being accepted. Over time, this creates a void, a sense that life is happening, but without any real meaning. This is the point where many people start to ask themselves, who am I living for? What truly matters to me? This moment of reflection, although uncomfortable, is crucial to beginning the process of individuation. Jung believed that to become truly whole, we must face what he called the shadow. The shadow represents the aspects of our personality that we repress or deny, traits we deem inappropriate, but which nonetheless remain part of who we are. This process of self-confrontation can be painful, but it is liberating. Imagine someone who grew up hearing that expressing anger is wrong. They may repress their feelings for years until, inevitably, those feelings erupt destructively or manifest as anxiety or depression. Recognizing and accepting this repressed part of their personality allows it to be integrated in a healthy way, rather than controlled by the unconscious. In fact, recent studies highlight the importance of this inner work. A study published by the American Psychological Association in 2021 found that people who engage in deep self-reflection and face their inner conflicts tend to report significantly lower stress levels and greater life satisfaction. Jung reminds us that by confronting our shadow, we don't become bad people, but rather more complete human beings. We acknowledge our limitations and vulnerabilities while also discovering hidden strengths. This acceptance helps us live with greater authenticity and purpose. Jung observed that something remarkable happens when we reach our 40s. Our priorities begin to shift. During youth, we are often driven by the pursuit of status, success, and external validation. We aim to secure a good job, start a family, and achieve what society defines as success. However, as we grow older, many people begin to question these values. What once seemed essential may start to lose its luster. Climbing the career ladder, for instance, may no longer feel like an absolute goal, and the desire to find purpose and meaning grows stronger. This pattern has been observed across cultures and historical periods. Jung believed that this awakening was a natural call from the human psyche, a prompt to begin living on our own terms rather than following external expectations. An interesting statistic illustrates this transition well. A Gallup survey conducted in 2020 revealed that 55% of workers over the age of 40 consider changing careers to something more aligned with their personal values, even if it means giving up financial gains. This highlights how the search for meaning becomes more important than material rewards. In this transitional process, Jung introduced the idea of individuation as a powerful tool. Individuation isn't about becoming better than others, but about being true to oneself. It's a journey of self-discovery that involves letting go of what isn't essential and reconnecting with what truly matters. A practical example of this can be found in people who begin to invest more time in hobbies they love, volunteer work, or even in creating personal projects. These activities reflect internal desires, not external expectations. When we surrender to this process, we discover a freedom we have never experienced before. We begin to live with purpose, not because we want to please others, but because we have found something that resonates with our deepest essence. One of Jung's greatest messages is that life becomes truly meaningful when we reconnect with our purpose. But what does this mean in practice? For Jung, purpose is not something we find outside of ourselves. It emerges from our soul, from what most motivates us and sparks our passion. However, this reconnection is not always straightforward. Often, the journey is filled with doubts and twists. In modern culture, we are bombarded by images of predefined success and happiness. Social media, movies, and even education tell us that we need to achieve certain milestones to feel fulfilled. But, as Jung pointed out, living an authentic life means challenging these patterns. For instance, think of someone who has dedicated decades to building a career they never truly enjoyed. This person may feel trapped, but change is still possible. Jung believed that by listening to our inner calls, those suppressed intuitions and desires, we can transform our lives. A study conducted by the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies on human happiness, reveals something interesting. People who pursue an intrinsic purpose, such as meaningful relationships or projects that reflect their passions, report greater well-being and satisfaction even when facing financial difficulties or external challenges. Even though individuation is essential, the path to this transformation is far from easy. When confronting our shadow and re-evaluating our choices, we often face resistance, both internal and external. Internally, the fear of failure or judgment can paralyze us. Jung often mentioned that the human psyche resists deep changes because they require stepping out of our comfort zone and facing the unknown. Externally, social pressures can make our journey more difficult. Friends, family, or colleagues may question our choices, reinforcing the fear of not being accepted. But Jung encourages us to persist. He believed that the courage to embrace who we truly are overcomes any obstacle. This is a moment of rebirth, where we leave behind old limitations and find a new way to live. Reaching middle age is not the end. It is a portal to something much greater. Through the process of individuation, we discover that life does not need to be governed by external obligations or a constant search for validation. For Jung, life truly begins when we find ourselves. This encounter does not happen in a single moment, but is built daily through small choices that reflect our authenticity. Studies confirm that this phase of transition can be profoundly transformative. According to data from the American Academy of Clinical Psychology, 68% of people who undergo a phase of personal rediscovery report greater clarity about what they want from life and feel more satisfied with their choices. In the end, Carl Jung's message is clear. Life gains meaning when we commit to finding ourselves. This does not mean eliminating mistakes or difficulties, but accepting them as an essential part of the transformation process. Each challenge is an opportunity to grow. Each authentic decision brings us closer to our true self. By embracing this journey, we discover that life is not measured by the time that passes, but by the depth with which we live it. As Jung stated, "He who looks outside dreams, he who looks inside awakens." The true awakening begins when we choose to live our truth.